Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well, then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. One of the things that can be most intimidating as a business owner is being put into a situation where you're forced, or at least where you're being asked to negotiate. A lot of things are actually negotiations, whether you realize it or not, from pricing to terms to really asking any one of your team members to do something for you or negotiating pay, anything like that. It all comes down to being able to persuade effectively and to ensure an equal exchange of value in whatever way that is perceived. So I'm going to share with you some tips that I have on negotiating. And it's not just at the deal table. It's not just negotiating your salary or negotiating pricing. It's really universally applicable to any situation where you're going to walk out with some type of agreement, whether that includes a financial consideration or not. So in business, we're most often dealing with something like a contract, a deal, a client, right? So you can picture this in that scenario, but just know that negotiations happening all the time in business, regardless of the situation. And I'm going to share some tips with you right now on effective negotiation strategies. Number one, I believe that the person who wins most negotiations is the one who came in the most prepared for the discussion. And that means do your homework, do your research. Before you enter into any negotiation, you have to understand market rates for product and services. You have to understand where the person's coming from. You have to have the facts and the statistics to back up your case so that you become more compelling through logic. There are various ways that people can be persuaded or to be convinced to enroll into your ideas. One of them is by showing statistics and data. A lot of people are very logical when it comes to, sharing money with you or investing their time. So they want to know, hey, like, what am I going to get for a return on this? What am I going to expect in terms of results? What is the likelihood of my success? And the more that you can bring something to the table that conveys that, the better. So do your research, do your due diligence, right? So let's say you're in this exchange where you're trying to sell someone your product or service, right? Or your services, let's just say. And you want to come to the table with stories of customer success. You want to come to the table with expected results, or maybe not guarantees. You can definitely include that, but you could actually include, hey, here's what I've seen work, and here's how I can ensure that you'll be successful. The other thing that you can do if you're on the other side of the table and you're being sold something is you can come prepared with information that you've sought out. Like, hey, these are the top concerns I've heard about this type of service. How do you address these, right? And being able to address any potential objections right out the gate. Right out the gate. I think objections in a sales conversation, let's say, in a sales negotiation, objections are nothing more than someone identifying a gap in the preparation of the other person to convey that. So an objection might be, hey, I don't have the time to do this thing. Well, let me, convey what exactly the expectations of time are and why your investment of time will be worthwhile, right? So we want to make sure that you are able to cover all your objections if you're in the selling position, and also that if you are trying to purchase something or make sure it's worth your investment, that you are also coming to the table with, hey, here are my top concerns or priorities. How can you address these for me? So the other thing is know your leverage. Maybe you understand that you have the upper hand in the conversation, or you understand that there's a necessity for your service. So, for example, and we don't mean take advantage by any stretch, but you have to understand the degree of necessity of what you do. So for me, what pops into my head is like doing taxes, right? If I'm doing your taxes, I realize that like you have to get your taxes done. The question is, are you going to do it yourself? Are you going to go buy a piece of software, or am I going to do it for you? Or is another professional going to do it for you? right? So if you're in the position where you're selling tax services, right? Understand that this person must get their taxes done. Like there is no, well, I guess you don't have to, but there are dire consequences if they don't. So there's a lot at stake. What are the stakes of them not engaging you and or not engaging in any service, regardless if you're the provider? So understanding that you have leverage, you have an upper hand when you're offering something that they need, they truly need, and what position they're in terms of quote unquote desperation to purchase from you. Understand if you have this upper hand, A, don't take advantage, obviously, but B, understand that you can basically focus on other things other than the necessity. They know they need you, or they know they need their taxes done, right? Why are you the one to do them? Why are you better than the software? Why are you better than, DIY? What will you do marginally that will bring them a better result? You also have to, this is an interesting thing, but you have to be willing to walk away. You have to be willing to call it what it is. I see this very often with service providers. They want the sale like it's an achievement. And I've been like this too. It's very easy to think like it's a win or lose if you get it or you don't get it. And if you're walking away with a new client, great. But if you're not walking away with a new client and they say no, that's not a loss. And I know that's hard to grapple with. But if you're in the middle of negotiating and they just say, no, I can't make that work. I just can't make that work. You have to be willing to say, okay, well, if you change your mind, let me know. We'll have another opening in a few months. And we can revisit then. You have to be willing to say, okay, then, no hard feelings. Because I find that when you push harder, when you say, no, we can make it work. We can come down to your price. We can come down to your price. It damages more than it does good, because what you're basically conveying is this whole time I could have come down to your price. This whole time I could have done that. You're going to come to resent that client if you're in that position, right? You just have to be willing in any negotiation to just say no and to let it be what it is. And it's really hard. It is really hard, but it demonstrates that you're serious about getting a good deal and that you have other deals on the table and that they're not, your end all be all, that you're not desperate. You don't want to come off as desperate. You want to come off as like, I would love to work with you. I would love to, get a raise, give you a raise, whatever that negotiation is, right? I would love to do that. I just can't make it happen right now. This is the minimum I can do, or this is the maximum I can do, period. And let them reveal how much they are truly interested versus coming to the table hoping to get a better deal. Also, there's a couple of different focus areas when you're entering into negotiation. You have got to be focused on the relationship, not the transaction. So sometimes you'll take a worse deal because on the back end it's going to build a relationship. Sometimes you have a relationship with this person and that has to come into consideration. You also have to, when you're entering into any type of negotiation, let's say it's with like a vendor or supplier, right? They're going to provide to you, that you build the relationship with them, even if, like, let's say you strike a deal, you negotiate a good deal. Then when you have that ongoing relationship, be a good customer, be a good provider, be of service to them, show that you are a great person to have on their roster or on their Rolodex or their network, right? Show that you are a good contact and that you are valuable. Showcase your value in the execution of the deal. And then watch what happens when a year comes up and you renegotiate terms or circumstances change, right? Things like COVID, when COVID happened, a lot of people came back to the deal table and said, okay, we've got to recalibrate. We've got to reestablish our deal here. And typically, if you have a good relationship, then people are going to be more forgiving and more, more able to bend to what you're looking for. And I'm not saying to, build relationships just superficially to get better deals, but I will say when you have a better relationship, you're probably going to end up on top in terms of the deal making that you're doing. And then the other thing is focus on value, not price. So if you're in the sales seat, if you're selling someone on something, you've got to convey the value. You've got to convey the value. This is not so here's my product and here's how much it costs and then like silence. It's asking questions. It's understanding how you can match the perceived value your customer has to the value that you're commanding in terms of dollars and cents. And when the value of what they're perceiving exceeds the dollars and cents, that's when they buy. That's when they buy. You want to exceed the dollars and cents in their mind in value. And that doesn't mean adding more. That means communicating the result that they're going to get and increasing their likelihood of success through your negotiation. It's not about adding more features, adding more features, adding more features. In fact, from where I sit, adding more features declines the value because I get confused. I'm like, I would rather have the plain vanilla version of what you do if you do it with excellence. What I would rather have is the most basic thing done with excellence, right? I don't need frills, bells, and whistles. I need the result done with excellence, streamlined as fast as possible. When you can save time, save energy, that is of value. That is totally of value. If you can increase the value simply by shrinking the amount of time invested, that will 10x the value because people have 24 hours in a day. We all have the same amount of time. We just have more money, some of us, or less money. And when you can shrink time, when you can buy us back time, that is insanely valuable. So, where I'm going with this is the value should exceed the price, but the value is what you're selling. You're not just going through the pricing plans, the pricing options, and the features. That can be done on a website. That's how you buy computers, right? You go online, you see the computer, you see the RAM, you see the speed, you see all this stuff, right? All these features that I barely know how to read, right? That's why I ask my husband about this stuff. And I go, okay, what type of thing do I need? And my perception of value is like, will it load quickly? Does it have good graphics? Will I be able to record a video easily on this thing? Like, the features are one thing. The value is a different thing. Like, will it save me time? Will it be fast? Will it be compact? Will it be convenient? It's so important to focus on value here. And also, the last tip I have is don't think just short term. Don't just think in terms of immediate cash flow when you're doing a negotiation. You want to be thinking about long term. So maybe that means in the short term, a small deposit, or the short term is you're doing something for free. So I recently heard a podcast with Alex Hormozy on it where he was talking about his original offer, which I know a lot about from his gym launch business, where here's what he did. He basically ran a weight loss challenge, right? When he started his gyms, when he was younger, he started a weight loss challenge and said, lose 20 pounds in 6 weeks and I'll give you your money back for the challenge. So when you think about it, okay, he got a bunch of people to sign up for this. Some people didn't lose the weight and brushed it off and said, well, but I learned some really good habits. I got to train. I got the meal plans. I feel whole. And they paid the money and they didn't engage the guarantee. He said 20 pounds in 6 weeks are your money back. And a couple people asked for the money back, right? But the spirit of it was 20 pounds in 6 weeks. And what you learn at the end of that is habits. You learn that it's not a 6-week project. You learn that it's not supposed to be, a short-term quick hit that you walk away from. It's supposed to be building momentum. And this is how he sold members into his gym. He would say, look, in 6 weeks, you lost 20 pounds. That's amazing. Do you want to keep this up? Do you think you can do this without me? And they realized, well, no, you just got me this massive result. I want more of these massive results. So they kept engaging. And where I'm going with this is understand that in the short term, he basically said, pay me to get this result or your money back, which sounds very risky. But in reality, it's not risky because there's only going to be a fraction of people who will engage that guarantee. There's only going to be a fraction of people who don't get the result. And you're also going to show up in a way where you're going to get them that result. You're going to try to get it as soon as possible and make them happy. And then they will continue to buy from you. You'll have lifelong customers there. So if you're in that position where you're selling and you have an offer kind of like this, where there's a promised result, but it takes a long time to unlock, you can have like a short-term quick win. And you say, okay, short-term quick win or your money back in this time frame. It's such a great idea. And why this matters is you have to be thinking about long-term relationship because his customer value skyrocketed by doing that challenge, because enough people saw the results, felt the results, got a taste of it, got a sampler of it, that they were like, okay, I want the main course. Okay, I can't live without you. I can't see myself accomplishing these goals without you. And there was minimal sales that had to be done because this almost sounds too good to be true. It almost sounds too good to be true to say, wait, 20 pounds or I get my money back. There's like no risk to me. No risk to you at all. Just do the work. Okay, cool. So when you lower the barrier, you lower any objection. There's almost no objection to that offer. Like, okay, wait, what happens if you get your money back? Well, what happens if I lose the 20 pounds? Well, you lost 20 pounds. What happens if I don't? You get your money back. Next question. There's no risk. There's no risk. I love it. And then it increases customer lifetime value because people will stick around. So what is your version of that? How can you leverage short-term success to build long-term relationships? How can you leverage a negotiation where at first glance you lose? Not really. But at first glance you lose in this deal, or you're able to guarantee, or you're able to offer something basically for free that's perceived to be free, or it's perceived to be zero risk, I should say, to get the result. How can you do that with the end in mind? Because anyone would say, that's crazy. You're not going to make any money. But you got to be thinking longer term. You got to be thinking long-term relationship, long-term customer value. You really do. And you also want to, consider the impact it's going to have on your business, your reputation, and things like that too. So the last thing is kind of externally understanding how your negotiations will be perceived externally, because we live in a day and age where, yes, things will happen at the deal table, but then certain things will be visible, right? You want to make sure that you're being fair to your other customers when you're negotiating other things. You want to make sure that you are, you're able to justify and understand why maybe you're offering certain prices to certain people, or how this exchange of value is taking place where it feels like an equal energy exchange, but it also feels fair in the grand scheme of your business. You don't want to lie to people. You don't want to short sight people. You want to make sure that everyone feels engaged, that they are in it for the results too. So those are some of my tips for negotiation, whether you are selling something, whether you're being sold to, or whether you just have any type of negotiation conversation happening in your business. Do you want to explore more about the topics discussed in today's episode? Or maybe you have specific questions on how to apply what you learned? If so, check out the Keep What You Earn community. Join other listeners, entrepreneurs, and experts, and get the support you need to get out of overwhelm and into action. Click on the link in the show notes to join now for free and start maximizing the value you get from each and every episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your podcast platform. This small action goes a long way for podcasters to get our message heard by more business owners just like you. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to information about our guests and ways to get in touch with me. We'll see you on the next episode.